Welcome, welcome, friends. Hello, hello. Welcome to the live stream. So great to be back today. I'm going live with my best friend, Alicia Anahata, and we're going to talk about a subject that often comes up in our personal conversations with each other, which is all about how abundance is our birthright. And there's just a lot of things to go into and to go into depth about that. So really excited to dive into that today with my best friend. And you know what else too? It's interesting, every time I talk with Alicia on the phone, we get into some really great topics, and every time I'm just saying, like, man, we really need to have these conversations online because it can help so many people and help open up some perspectives and help open up some conversations. So I really feel like this is a time where the people that are kind of scared to share, or a little nervous about sharing, or have always wanted to share, we really got to get past our fears and step up to the plate and start these conversations. So yeah, so I'm really excited for this conversation today. Funny enough, a year ago, Alicia and I, we came together and played music together on the beach in Toronto, and we really overcame some fears that day too, and we created magic for people and created some really beautiful music. So I'm gonna bring her on here today, exactly 1 year. Adding Alicia Anahata. Hey guys, what's up? Hi, love.
Hello.
Hey. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So guys, this is my best friend, Alicia Anahata. And Alicia is, she works with the wisdom of the earth. She works with the energetic currents of life, dance, sound, and vibration as tools for healing, and artistic expression and embodiment. So welcome, love. So great to have you here. So to begin our chat today, abundance is our birthright. Yes. We decided to share a little bit of your medicine with your sound chalice. So guys, feel free to settle in, get comfy, and Alicia is going to give us a beautiful sound healing.
Yeah, so I'm just going to share a few seconds of this beautiful crystal chalice that's made by a dear friend of mine, Sophia Rose. So this is all quartz. And if you just want to close your eyes, I invite you to close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and just tune in to the energy of this chalice and really the energy of this conversation that Amy and I are going to have today. And I invite you to open your heart and open your mind to what comes through. All right, so just a little taste.
Beautiful. Thank you, Alicia. Always love your sound vibrations and all of the tools that you have. Whenever we hang out, it's always such a blessing. So our topic today, abundance is our birthright. I feel like there's a lot of people out there who, every single day that passes, it's just getting more confusing and more confusing. And, you know, in our conversations, we often walk away feeling a lot better, just sharing the things, the different perspectives that we have.
Yes.
And that's why we're just so happy to share here today. You know, it really seems like we're living in a world of inversion and distortion.
Yes.
And there's just really a lot that's been kept from us, and just so many things that really, and not to judge the way things are, but really how things could be so much different, and to just bring our awareness to these things in order to change them and transmute them and create a better future for everyone.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the things that are happening these days are actually pulling us further from our natural state. And so things like sound and reconnecting back to the earth. And when I say back to the earth, it's kind of a funny thing because I truly believe we're actually not separate from the earth. We are nature as well. So when we're pulled from this alignment with the natural currents of life, we then start to experience a lot of what we're seeing happening in the collective right now, which is a lot of imbalance, a lot of suffering, a lot of pain. A lot of people have disease and are sick, and you know, we are stuck in a lot of loop cycles, and we're kind of just going through the same patterns and just getting by, more like surviving. And I really truly believe we're meant to be here to thrive, and that is what our birthright is. You know, our birthright is here to thrive, to be in community with one another, to be walking in right relation with the planet and the elements of the earth and all of the wisdom that is available to us, and the abundance of resources that's actually available to us, which we feel is actually quite scarce. And I believe that's because only a very small percentage of the population, 1%, is actually controlling and managing all of those resources and choosing how they're utilized. And that's what's creating the imbalance and the illusion of scarcity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it, you know, it's like, it's not even really our fault that we've kind of been led so far away from the earth and what's natural, and what, you know, the natural way of being, you know, what it means to be human.
Yes.
And you know, it's really like today we're gonna talk about all the different ways that the powers that be, they have their agendas, and they implant these thoughts and ideals into our minds when really, you know, it's really not that way, and that we can live such a different way. And and just all the ways that we've come away from nature.
Yes.
Yeah. And so yeah. You know, abundance is our birthright. And that statement right there, as I told you, Alicia, before, that I had a friend who I shared that with, and she actually took offense to it. She was like taken aback, and she thought, what? Like, abundance is our birthright. Well, you know, you have to work hard for things, and you know, you got to work really hard, and no doubt, like, we absolutely do need to work, and I don't think there's really any human out there that doesn't want to work at something. You know, it's our natural thing. Like, it's all about balance, right? And we've just been overworking and giving so much of ourselves because of the way that society has been structured, and the typical work week, etc. And so it's kind of like that idea of like the fish that like swims upstream and is like, hey, like, no pain, no gain, like, keep going, and it's hard here, and you got to just keep going, and you got to push and push and push and push against something until you're just completely drained, and you feel like non-human. You have nothing to give from your cup.
Yes.
And you know, and let alone try to be a good mother or a father or a brother or a sister, you know. So there's really no wonder why there's so many people kind of losing their minds in this kind of society, because it's been created to drive us into that sort of mental state.
For sure.
So yeah, like, it was hard for me to get my mind around why was she offended by that statement. I think it's natural. Like, abundance is our birthright. Abundance of time, abundance of self-reflection, abundance of love, abundance of community, you know. Yeah. So
yeah, of wealth, of creativity, of exploration. Like these are all things that we should be able to spend our energy and time doing. And in doing all of that, also building up society in a way that's sustainable and regenerative, not, you know, killing off society and in the process killing ourselves, a slow death, which I feel is happening. Uh, you know, and it's very normalized. A lot of the things that we're experiencing in the world have been so normalized. Slowly spoon fed. You cut out there. Is everything okay?
I think we're back on.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So yeah. So I feel like everything's kind of slowly fed to us. So we don't really ask big questions in those moments. And then all of a sudden we reach a point where we're like, hold on. Well, this is what's happened for me. I'm like, hold on. What's going on here? This doesn't feel aligned to how I truly want to live my life and what I see as a bigger picture. So yeah, it's a very interesting time that we're living in, and within the last 3-4 months that we've been in this lockdown, you know, and the entire world has been kind of put on a pause, and we are very scared of this virus, and we are being told to keep each other safe in particular ways from this virus. But when we look at our life as a whole and what we've been doing leading up to this point, have we really been taking measures into our own hands to really live a life that is nourishing, that is boosting our immune system, that is helping our psyche, that is helping our emotional well-being? Not really. You know, we spend a lot of time drinking a lot of alcohol. There's a lot of addiction: tobacco, alcohol, drugs, pharmaceuticals. We're addicted to TV. We're addicted to the media. We idolize people in the media and these actors and these actresses. Those are the gods that we look up to. We listen to everything the government says to us, but yet we know that the food that we're also eating, that they're providing to us, is toxic. You know, our food is not real food anymore. It's printed food with weird chemicals and all of these things in it. And we just keep eating it, and it's just normal, and we don't ask questions. And same with the water supply. And a lot of people would think, oh, these are conspiracies. You know, these are conspiracies. Why would the government want to hurt us? You know, they have the best interest. They have our best interest in their hands. I don't truly believe that. I believe they have a goal, and they have a value system, and they have something that drives them, which is not that our well-being is not a part of that value system at all.
No.
And the only role that we play within that system for them is giving them exactly what they want. And free labor, a lot of our energy, when I say free labor, more like our energy, like I'm going to use the word siphoning. They're siphoning our energy. They're siphoning our life force, our creativity, our emotions. And we're giving all of that away, and we're emptying ourselves for this energy, this entity that is not replenishing us, that's not, you know, long-term sustainably healthy for our well-being. So yeah, it's a lot to take in. I know a lot of people, when they start listening to these types of concepts, it can be a lot. This is not something that I've just decided within these last months that I feel. This has been something since around 2013 that I have gone into my own inner self-reflection and healing to try and heal from addiction, from a lot of anger and rage and frustration and suicidal tendencies, if I'm going to be honest, and going to the Western, you know, way of healing all of this. So I was put on antidepressants, I was put on sleeping pills, I was put on medications, and I was seeing a therapist. And that did not support me. It was not sustainable. It didn't bring me, you know, to where I needed to get. And so that led me to having to take matters into my own hands. And that led me into more of a holistic lifestyle. And that's why I'm at this pace now. And through that, I have gone down many rabbit holes of conspiracies, you know, and there was times where I was very resistant to a lot of the things I was reading because it's very out there. Some of the things and some of the concepts are very out there. But over years, I was able to welcome in those perspectives and see them with a new, you know, clear, grounded, you know, outlook. And yeah.
Yeah, like those of us, and like same thing for myself as well, like having to heal my health. I've had to look into this stuff for years now, and we're lucky that, well, not necessarily lucky, but we're more fortunate that we had to look into these things a long time ago. So it was small amounts over a longer period of time, starting to unravel the lies, unravel all of the deception, you know, in the health world as well, which there's a ton, so much in the health world, you know, and for our own healing. So so it's almost been easier since all the global drama happened, it's almost been easier for the conspiracy theorists like you and I, which I like to call us conspiracy realists.
Yes.
It's been easier for us to understand the big show and what's really going on. But for those of us that maybe hadn't looked into any of this stuff, had always trusted the government, had known there's some, you know, some corruption, but for the most part, the government's for us and whatever. They can be really, really resistant to what's happening now. And some people are really spinning out because it's so much information all at once. And it's a lot. And so, you know, we totally understand that and really feel for everyone who's going through this stuff right now. And it can feel like, you know, your thought structure, your belief system that got you this far in life starts to just, like, fall away, and you have no anchor to really catch you. So big part of our journey has been developing our spiritual path and our understanding of this life and our connection to source, whatever you want to call it, developing that relationship, and that becomes your anchor during these times of confusion and deception.
There definitely is a lot of confusion, a lot of deception, and even within the spaces we, you know, where we feel like there's a lot of truth, even within the truth, certain truths that we think are truths, there's deception. And so I know you talk about often developing your discernment, you know, strengthening that within you, your inner compass, your intuition, so that you can navigate through a lot of these deceptions, and to not, because it can really shock your nervous system, all of this. And I think that's something that's happening in society, is just the way that our environment is. Our nervous systems are being bombarded, and not even just with like the actual media and things like this, the sounds, you know, with all of the inorganic, non-native sounds around us, and the lights and all of these different spectrums of energy. These directly impact our entire being on a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual level. And so we are literally being bombarded from every angle possible, all day, every day. And I don't say that to scare anyone, you know, and some people might choose to want to be ignorant to that because it's easier. But eventually that will start to break down, and you will start to be affected by it. And so that's why I know yourself and myself, we do take certain measures and do certain things to maintain balance within an environment that is not really here to support us fully. And and I truly believe nature and returning to our connection of nature, which I believe is part of our true essence, is a massive piece and a bridge back into balance and equilibrium within ourselves, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you brought up a really great point about our nervous system, you know,
Yeah.
being bombarded by, like you said, unnatural sounds like in a city, unnatural vibrations, etc. You know, and also just the way that we've now, that we're living where we have such inflation, where the cost of living is so high, and we're constantly in this state of fight or flight around money and around making rent. Like humans are not meant to live that way. We're not meant to live with a constant fear that if you don't make rent, then that place, that house is going to be ripped from underneath you and you're going to
Yeah.
have nowhere to live. Like
Mm-hmm.
that, those are root chakra issues, and that's what causes a lot of the psychosis and people having depression, anxiety, all of that stuff. That's one of the root issues of where that comes from. We're not meant to live in that kind of state all the time. We used to live in tribes where we would stick with our kin and we would support each other and be with each other. And in that community, you have safety and you feel that sense of safety. So, you know, again, it's not our fault necessarily about how this all played out. You know, these powers that be, the forces that be, they have fabricated lack and scarcity in every which way. And
Mm-hmm.
it forces us into this madness.
Yes.
So I think it's important to just kind of take that in and realize that and know that it's okay. It's okay that you feel the way that you feel, and that thank goodness that now this is coming to everyone's awareness and that we can work to really change this.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yeah, of course. Thank goodness that these things are being revealed, and to be patient with ourselves, you know, within the process of the unlearning and the relearning, because I truly believe we have to unlearn and dismantle a lot of what we think we know and what we think this reality is and this world is, and what we've been told, what we've learned in schools, what we see on, you know, the mainstream media, all of these advertisements too that condition us and perpetuate a certain standard in society that a lot of people are trying to align with, which is pulling us into really dark places as well. And so, yeah, it's a lot. And so bringing ourselves back and being gentle with ourselves through the process of unlearning and opening ourselves up to these new concepts. And it does get easier in the sense that the more that you strengthen your inner self, you become more equipped to deal with some of the intensities of life. But simultaneously for myself, one of the things that I've been very blessed with is traveling and is exploring different parts of the world and kind of getting out of the Western bubble and really going into some really beautiful parts of the world, into nature where quite untouched. And that really shows you the magic that is also available here simultaneously within the chaos and the mundane. And that is something that I'm also learning to constantly find balance in, between is that sweet spot between the polarities of life. You know, because there was a time when I was so deep into just being consumed by the physical world and all the conditioning that I lost connection to source, to spirit, to the magic. And that's why there was times where I did want to commit suicide and I didn't feel, what is the point of being here? Like, there's no point just to work and struggle and all of these things. And then there was a time when I started going.
Hey, Alicia, I think we lost you a little bit there. If you want to switch over, if you can still hear me, if you want to switch over to data, we can do that. But yeah, you know, nature is such a wonderful thing that we have because it is the expression that is close. You know, if you're someone who you have, we're gonna bring Alicia back in. Until she's back in here. If you're someone who has been feeling like really scattered, really discombobulated, just not sure what's true, really take yourself out into nature, get your feet on the earth, get some sunshine on your skin, and just literally just gaze at nature. There is an information that you receive that you may not even really realize you're receiving. But things like the way that water flows, the symmetry in a flower, the symmetry in a leaf, you know, just any of those little things, you're taking that information in and you're getting healing from it, because it's really the closest thing that we have to truth and the divine is nature. So there's other ways that we can use the elements for healing. Certain things like fire. Like if you've ever been around a campfire, you can work with the fire to help purify and transmute feelings within your body that you want to get rid of. And you know, indigenous people, different wisdom traditions throughout time have worked with the element of fire to help transmute these things. So there's really a lot that we have at our disposal to work with for healing. So hang on, guys. Let me just bring Alicia back on here. Let's see. I'm sure her connection is going to come back in here at any moment. I'm going to stick on, and we'll wait for her to come back on. So, so one of my favorite books, The Gods of Eden, is pretty awesome. It's very controversial, and it's basically a history book, and it talks about how the human race is basically enslaved by potentially an extraterrestrial race that created humans as somewhat of a slave race to build buildings for them, take care of them, etc. And basically says that they're still doing that today, and but they're pulling the strings from elsewhere. And something I really love that William Bramley brings up in this book is that, you know, if the government, if the powers that be were really in our favor, like if they really actually cared, do you really think that, you know, it would take 45 years to pay off a home? Do you really think that you would need to work 2 or 3 jobs just to pay for your family? Do you really think that cars would like fall apart after a few years? You know, this is a planned obsolescence, right? There's just the way that they've taken from us, the way that they've created lack is so refined. It's actually kind of unbelievable to think about. Basically, if our tax dollars were actually going to the people, then so many more people would be supported. Life would be vastly, vastly different. You know, the government are supposed to be public servants, but they're not. So, you know, just realizing this and really, really like understanding that we don't have to really take it anymore, and that we're realizing our birthright, which is abundance. So guys, I'm gonna bring, I think Alicia's back here. Here we go. I'm gonna continue this epic conversation. Hey babe.
So sorry, my phone overheated.
Oh no.
It just shut down. Okay, so I just moved into my room.
All good. This is perfect timing.
Okay. So yeah, I think I cut off just quickly, just saying that I went really far into the spiritual path. And I also got a little ungrounded and unhinged there because I was like really driving so far up. And so it's been years of going through this process of unlearning, unpacking, and unraveling a lot of the conditioning, and then finally feeling like this expansion through all the different modalities and the ceremonies and plant medicines and things like this that I was participating in. But it takes a lot of integration to go so deep into that path without kind of losing track, like losing grip with the real world and the earth plane. And so that is something very important, is finding that middle ground and that balance between the polarities of life, you know, the inner and outer world, the mundane and the magic, the physical, the non-physical, the masculine and the feminine, all of these different, you know, polarities that we're constantly dancing between and through. The light and the dark, if you want to say, or the light and the shadow aspects that are contained within all of us and within all of life. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you bring up a point there too. Alicia and I both have used plant medicine in our journeys to help heal,
Mm-hmm.
our stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that comes from, living in a world that's just crazy,
Yes.
and so we had to, heal ourselves, right? And we did use plant medicine as part of that. And actually, we both kind of slowed down in that area as well,
Mm-hmm.
because like you said, it's all about the middle path and really finding that middle
Yes.
ground. And sometimes we're so far off that we need something like a plant medicine to help us learn about ourselves and help us heal and transmute some of our um, inner trauma
Yes.
that we need to get rid of.
Yes.
But yeah, like the we've talked a lot about new age traps and how we get carried away in those
Mm-hmm.
traps, and we have gotten carried away. And I know myself as well, where you know it really is a spiritual war happening right now. And
Yes.
it's tricky because a lot of people in North America, they don't grow up with a real strong religious background or a cultural background where the traditions and the beliefs are really passed on. It's just
Mm-hmm.
very watered down. And
Yeah.
so now with this kind of trend, this uprising of spirituality and people like dipping their toes into Buddhism and Hinduism and the yogic path and Christianity and this and that, just trying to find something to anchor them and to ground them.
Yes.
And it's wonderful to use those paths and use those tenets and things from different paths to help you. But really, in the end, it really is within you,
Mm-hmm.
all of the answers. So getting as clear as possible and working on, like we talked about, your inner discernment and that inner internal guidance system can be so valuable.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, if you wanted to talk about some of the spiritual traps that we found ourselves in, the new age traps.
Yeah, the new age spiritual movement, it's very interesting because, like you said, when you don't really grow up with certain value systems, or your passed on spiritual teachings and wisdom, you do start to want to gravitate towards something eventually. I mean, not maybe everyone, but this is what happened for me. And so I truly believe, a lot of the people who, like the different ancient cultures and tribal people, indigenous people, they were once living off the land and really strengthening their connection with the land as a guidance system as well, so that they could survive and thrive in the environments that they were in. And a lot of them developed these different spiritual practices and wisdom. And, some people would consider certain people to be shamans or witches or herbalists. All of these different things, they come from different parts of the world, voodoo. But again, certain concepts of these have been kind of, I don't know what the word is, demonized. And we don't understand what those mean. And so what's happening in the New Age movement is we're taking a lot of these ancient practices and it's coming a melting pot like a soup, and it is getting very watered down, and we really have no idea where the true teachings are coming from, because all of these teachings used to be passed down by oral tradition, and there was a lot of books on some of these things, but they've been deliberately burned as well, to hide information, to lose information. And I truly believe certain practices and cultures were intentionally tried to be wiped out. And when we go into like the transatlantic slave trade, for example, and African people were brought over as slaves, they were also taken from their spirituality and from their practices. And they were basically taken with a lot of conditioning and brainwashing. They were broken from their spirit. They were broken from their connection to what drove them before. And we're still seeing the residual energies of that. And a lot of people have been separated from their original connection, whatever that was to them, to whatever this great mystery is. And that's what we're seeing the residual effects of, is like we're all being kind of pulled so far away, and we're all trying to reach for something. And it's interesting because a lot of people in the Western world, where I myself, I reached for every other culture and teaching first and foremost, before I went deep into my own ancestry. And I'm mixed race, so I have ancestors coming from Jamaica, from Africa, and from Germany, and from Scotland. So there's so many ancient traditions from all of my ancestors that they were embodying at some point in time. And then as the distortion started to creep in, my ancestors from both sides have also been oppressors and have been the oppressed. And we're also dealing with that generational trauma still woven through us, you know, and we are very disconnected. And I believe this is one of the root causes of that. And so in the New Age spiritual movement, I truly believe that we can honor the different cultures because I believe they're all keys. But how can we really solidify and anchor in something with true integrity if we haven't even gone deep within our own DNA first? And that's why I think the New Age movement is quite unhinged. And we kind of create all of these stories on top of the things that we experience. And in a way, it's become, the spiritual movement has also become colonized. It's not coming, in my perspective. I think the intention might be there of the people who are facilitating things, but the integrity is being lost, and it's dissolving very quickly. And again, if we want to go into more of a conspiracy theory concept, I mean, I do think certain teachings, so again, certain truths are being manipulated, and there's a lot of things within certain teachings that are creating this kind of spiritual bypassing, toxic positivity, love and light, which is completely now trying to bypass the physical world and what's actually happening right here, right now. And I believe that's part of an agenda to kind of unhinge people and disconnect them in a totally other way. If that makes kind of sense to people. But this is what I've experienced and observed over many years of diving into this path and diving into myself through these modalities.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Okay. Yeah, like that spiritual bypassing, the not wanting to look at the dark, not wanting to see that. And yeah, I mean, this is part of the human experience right now, especially. And yeah, like in order to change something, we have to have awareness of it. You know, we cannot change what we refuse to acknowledge.
Exactly.
So, and this is such a great time where everything is kind of coming to the surface.
Yes.
And yeah, so feeling, you know, grounded in yourself. I think a lot of people, when they start to see all of the lies starting to unfold, then it is really scary, like we said before. But cultivating that understanding of what this life is and what death is, which are just really very simple, basic concepts. And of course, these different wisdom traditions can point us in these different directions and give us some information. But I really, really do feel that this is all within us, these understandings that death is not the end, and that we're here right now. We're all here together, going into this collectively, going into this really crazy, wild, wacky time. But knowing that we're going into it together, and that it's a story that has been written, and that things have been really out of balance for a very, very long time. And if we know anything about cycles, which cycles come from nature, we see that, right? That's not in any specific wisdom tradition. Exactly. It's in all of them. Yeah. it's the, you know, it's in nature. And so we see that when something's over here, it has to come back the other way. Yes. And, you know, and so I think that their reign is over, and that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the crumbling of their stranglehold on society, and all of the perversion that happens in the highest levels of this world. It's coming to light now, and we have to be brave enough to see it, and to, as much as it doesn't feel good to say this, but to accept that it's happening, and then be the warriors to make the change. Yes. And to be the brave ones that can see it.
Yeah. And so when you speak about, you know, like a lot of the perversion in the world, and we have to acknowledge it in order to, you know, shift it. And I think a large majority of us have been living in the whole ignorance is bliss kind of way for so long. And I mean, with the amount of information that we have at our fingertips these days, and of course, it takes a lot of sifting, and you do have to give yourself breaks to not go into overdrive and override, because I've been there, and I know you also have, where you want to go so deep down certain rabbit holes, but you got to pull yourself back and ground and center yourself. And because you don't want to send yourself into overly depressive states, which sometimes this information, it can. But again, the more that we strengthen and the more that we learn, then we have the choice of how we choose to move forward. We have the choice of what we would like to build moving forward. And currently what we are all doing is we've been upholding a system through our consent, through, you know, I believe a form of activism is voting with your dollar. So whatever we pay for, whatever we watch, you know, with our, whatever we're giving our energy to, we are saying, yes, we are saying we want more of that. And that's what we've been doing for so long. We've been just saying yes. And sometimes it's consciously, sometimes it's unconsciously. And that's okay to admit that we've all been doing this. We have to start getting clear, like getting real with ourselves and admitting to the fact that we were all upholding something at some point that is really not long-term beneficial. And so for me, it's like, do we want to uphold a system that is outdated and that was never designed for us? Or do we choose to build a new system together that is actually going to shift and regenerate this planet? And, you know, we can actually see and be embodied and live in a world that we all dream of. And I know a lot of us dream of these worlds, and a lot of us, we kind of get swept away sometimes into certain video games and movies and TV shows because we want to enter something different. But that is available to us here and now if we choose. And, you know, realistically, like, we have ancestors from our past, and we will eventually be ancestors. And so what are we leaving for the future generations? What are we leaving? How are we leaving this planet? Are we leaving the future generations with resources? If you have children, if you're a mother, if you're a father, I'm an aunt. I have 2 beautiful nephews, and, you know, I'm a godmother as well. And I have a lot of young children, from babies up into young youth within my family. And do I want them to live and move into a world where it's all technology and there is literally no nature left? And if they have children, that their children are born into that space and don't even know what nature really is? Because that's only going to get them so far. Or do we want to leave them with abundance? Do we want to leave them with the space to thrive and create, where they don't have to go through all the things that you and I have had to go through, a lot of this clearing work, a lot of this deep shadow work, a lot of this deprogramming, and just hustling and working to try and live? You know, I don't really want to pass that on personally at all. At all.
Yeah.
So that is, you know, that's kind of where we're at. We're at a choice point. We are at a choice point as a collective, and we get to choose how we move forward. And we can't really do that alone. We are required to do our inner work and our unlearning. And of course, we can invite and welcome in people who can support us during that, but no one can fix our internal world for us. That is all up to us. But together, we are the ones as community to move in a new way, to shift the way that things are currently going.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. Yeah, it's like you said, it absolutely is a turning point. Yeah, and we don't necessarily know what the future is going to bring, so we just have to do and work on what we can, which is really just working on ourselves and influencing and affecting the people in our lives, our direct circle of influence, living in gratitude and in love as much as you can every day, you know, counting your blessings and trying your very, very best not to move into that fear state.
Yes.
Because like we said, they thrive off of that. whether you believe in the luge thing or not, whether you believe the dark forces at the top are human or astral parasites, or if they're extraterrestrials or if they're reptiles. We don't 100% know, but we know that they're not of a human heart.
Exactly.
And, yeah, so the best thing we can do is take away their food, in a sense, which is taking away the fear and releasing fear and accepting that these times are really wild right now, and just kind of accepting that, but changing the way that you live each and every day, making new and better choices. Doing everything we can. I mean, a dream that Alicia and I both share, which we're going to be working on, is buying land and building a biodynamic learning farm and retreat center where we can live in community, in a tribe, in the way that supports humans the most, which is the way we used to live, which was much more balanced, much more harmonious than the way that we live today in cities, individually in little boxes in the sky, going crazy and mad, chasing money.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that anymore. I did that. I moved away from the city for a reason.
Yes.
And so, just really understanding what your true values are and aligning with them and doing everything you can each and every day to live those. So let's see if we have any questions or anything from anyone. If you want us to chat about anything, or let me just scroll through.
Okay.
Let's see. I guess so going forward, with not really knowing what's in store for us, is there any advice that you could give to someone, Alicia, who maybe is struggling a little bit, who really wants to open themselves up to learning about some of these things that might crash their current belief system and their belief paradigm, but are having resistance around it? And so if you could just offer any advice to someone in that position.
Yeah, I mean, anyone kind of ready to really deep dive into this, again, trust your intuition if you're feeling the pull to this information. Know that when you go into this information, it's going to be a lot. So again, while diving into this, to make sure you're having practices to continue to move the energy through the body, to continue to expand yourself, to not hold on to a lot of this, because we can store this information within ourselves. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's some dark stuff happening. There's some really distorted things happening on this planet. And so this path might not be for everyone to go so deep. And if you find somebody that you resonate who's sharing, listen to what they have to say. And when you feel that resistance, because it really challenges your current belief system, to sit with it for a while and to just, take blocks of time to research certain things in blocks of time. You don't have to go into all of it at once. And the art of contemplation is really beautiful, where you research into something and you reflect on it for a period of time. Some people, that's a day, sometimes it's a week, and really marinate in that information, sit with it, reflect upon it, and then take what you need from it and allow that to help you move forward in a new way and to help break old patterns. And to then be able to educate people in a balanced way, because what's happened to me in the past is I learned a lot of things and I was expanding my mind at a rapid rate, especially when I was working with plant medicines. And I wanted to run and tell everyone what I was learning, and everyone was like, you're crazy. I don't want to hear about this. Like, you're off your rocker. And so not a lot of people at the time, this was years ago, were totally ready. And I was very forceful, and I can take ownership of that. And so now you have to also feel into the energetics when you're around people. How deep can you go into a topic? Is this the right place and the right time? And again, this is all coming back to also strengthening your own intuition and being able to tune into the energetic currents of life to know how to navigate certain spaces and people. So yeah, and if you have questions, like, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to support people on their journey of unpacking and unraveling things and opening up to new possibilities. But yeah, just be patient and gentle with yourself through this process. And that's really the best kind of guidance I can give at this time around the going deep into some theories and unpacking, unlearning.
Yeah, absolutely. That patience. When this all went down in the beginning, I went into a very intense time of information intake. And it was just every single waking moment, I wanted to watch that interview, read that article, and just go into it. And I actually found myself getting addicted to it.
Yes.
I actually did. I was snappy with the people around me, and I just wanted my headspace for taking in information. And that is another imbalance. So, we really got to watch ourselves with that too. So I think that's really great suggestion, to just be patient with yourself, take in what you can, and use that inner discernment. It does take time to hone that, to know what is true and honest information.
Yes.
For me, discernment, it ends up being like a feeling in my body. When I learn information and I roll it around and I say, is that true? I'm not sure. I let it sit with me. And generally you do get a feeling all over your body, almost in each and every one of your cells, when you understand that is true. It not only has to have that effect, but it also has to appeal to your logic. Yes. As well. And it takes time. Like I said, I became a dedicated researcher when I had to understand my health condition and unravel that and really understand that when I didn't have help from the conventional way, which is doctors. So you begin to just get really good at understanding what is truth and discernment. So yeah. And something that you reminded me of is just about letting go. Everyone, I think, at this time is really being asked to let go of absolutely everything. And it feels so intense and fearful, but it is the most freeing thing when you can let go of just all of these things. You let go of just, if there's a lot of chaos and turmoil happening in your life right now because of the lockdowns and because of everything, to just kind of surrender to that, because the healing that you're going to get from learning to let go is so huge for your soul's development. And that's been coming up in my life big time, that letting go. Yeah.
Yeah. And letting go, it continues to happen over and over again. Even sometimes when we feel like all the research that we've done, we've led to a conclusion or a truth, or we've embodied a certain practice, and then, or we've a certain supplement or something, that we think is healthy for us. And then you learn later on, actually, no. Learning to also know that you were wrong and you made a mistake, or, take accountability for certain things. Because I know sometimes you have a belief system and you want to hold on to it so for dear life. And you're afraid to admit that you might have got led down kind of a road, like into like a dead end. And I know that we don't have too much time to talk about this, but veganism movement is something that you and I have both kind of gone deep into. And we learned through time that's not necessarily the way, and that kind of gets tied into the new age spiritual movement. There is this concept of your diet is representative of your spiritual growth. So unpacking that and unlearning that, I know you've been doing, I've been doing. So yeah, that's a whole conversation for another day.
Yeah, maybe that will be our next conversation. Let us know in the chat there, guys, if you'd love for us to talk about that next time. Yeah, it absolutely is that whole idea of the plant-based thing being your ticket to ascension, and that you'll be closer to God and you'll be closer to source if you eat only plants. But we do know that some of the most spiritual cultures are Native Americans, Native peoples of all the lands that do eat animal foods. And so, just the whole spiritual shift around that and around understanding some of the harsh realities of this life. but also honoring those animals just as deeply as you might have done when you were plant-based. So yeah. So we've got a couple minutes left. Yarwu says, challenging and letting go of belief is really great advice. Yeah. So I really do feel a lot of people are going through that. They're just trying to learn how to fully let go of these fear patterns that have had them in a grip for a lot of years. And it's so scary because you're at the edge of something that is so familiar to you, like that belief, that fear belief structure, that it's familiar and you don't want to let it go, but you know it's not good for you. And on the other side is freedom. And sometimes that's what we're most afraid of, is just being so free.
I know.
Afraid of our greatness. Yeah.
Do we have a few minutes? What's the timing?
Yeah, we've got about, I think, 5 minutes left.
5 minutes. Yeah, it's interesting when we speak about, we kind of stay in these loop, I call them loop patterns or toxic loop patterns of the familiarity. But I've been in that space for so long where I stayed in this place where it was familiar, but my soul was like bursting at the seams. And I knew where I wanted to go, but the fear of the unknown, like, also crippled me. But I find sometimes we associate that fear of the unknown with this expansion. And the expansion, when we go into this expansion state, it's a lot of energy to hold in. And so we resist so much. But as soon as you finally just surrender into that, you sometimes question, like, why did I hold on to that for so long? Why did I have these like grips? So that's really something interesting that I've been through many of times, and I'm going through it currently as well with certain belief systems where I'm holding on, and I have the fear of showing up in a bigger way and even getting on this live. I canceled with you. Just simple things like sometimes, some people can get on a live and they can speak in public places, and it's totally okay for them. When I was younger, when I had to do any sort of speech, I literally felt like I was going to pee my pants because I was so terrified and scared. But these are the things, these are the patternings of continuing to let go of, and then the liberation and the growth and the expansion and the creativity and all of the healing that happens from simple things like this. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, putting ourselves out there like this, like you might stumble over your words and you might feel like you sound like you would, like you wish you could sound more intelligent or whatever, and it's like, it's in that raw authenticity that is so healing for yourself, and then for others to see you be authentic as well.
Yes.
It creates the space for them to do it. Exactly. So yeah, so if I could encourage anyone listening now, if you have something that you've been wanting to talk about, if you've been wanting to get out there on this medium, on whatever social media platform, and you've been wanting to speak, we encourage you to do that, because this really is a time where those that are afraid of doing it, those are the people's voice that we really need to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a whole conditioning of like, creating us to feel small, like we shouldn't take up space or we truly have a voice. And, this is the time where we need to start having these discussions between human to human, because this is the world that we want to build. So we can't just always rely on some entity to kind of dictate what we should do and what we should be talking about and all of these things. Like, we need to start having these dialogues to get this information naturally flowing. And of course, sometimes it's scary because it's like, well, am I going to make sense, or am I going to say something wrong, not deliver the correct information? And of course we want to be mindful, of these things, but not get so hung up on that, because that will create this resistance and we probably won't do it. Someone says here, any advice on how we can find those sound frequencies that most resonate with us individuals, discovering our personal sound DNA, if you will?
Yeah. Well, we've got only 44 seconds left.
44 seconds. Okay.
Yeah. It sounds like we'll have to come back and chat more about sound, because you're a sound healer. Yeah. So really quick, where people can find you, Alicia, is on your Instagram, which
Yes.
is Alicia Anahata.
Anahata, yeah.
Alicia.anahata. And Alicia does private sessions, so you can reach out to her if you'd like to chat more. And if you guys really loved this conversation, then yeah, we welcome you to reach out. I'm Amy Rose Rewilding, and if you'd like to chat more, then just reach out to us. So guys, we're going to definitely come back for more of these. Thank you so much for